Welcome on in, guys. Tobin here with you. Thanks for checking out the channel. You made it, Dolphins. Training camp is upon us. Everybody who was out in the field today, pretty much, that was available, not on PUP or any news you didn't know. I think Chris Brooks was the only guy that was a bit of a surprise for the reporters that wasn't out there. But, of course, the big news today was Tua going to practice. And the answer is kind of. It's basically they're doing the hold-in thing. He is not passing in 11-on-11 drills. He's handing it off. He is passing in 7-on-7. You got some video of that on the Dolphins Twitter account. Mike McDaniel addressed the situation today. And I got to say for Mike, Mike holds a pretty good poker face on all of this stuff because he is a wizard at just saying a lot of words without saying anything really of consequence. Because I will give it to the Dolphins reporters. They did try and pepper him up and down with what would happen if Tua came to you and said, Mike, I really need a deal done. And then it was, would you go in that scenario? And he goes, I wouldn't envision Tua doing that. And then somebody else asked him, what would you say what would you go to Chris Greer and say, hey, I need this for the best of the team? It's like, you're not getting this guy. He's I wouldn't call Mike McDaniel a wordsmith as much as a word machine gun, in that he could just say a lot of words and somehow wiggle his way out of it. But he, did say that he is not he's not going to get into this forecasting game of how long this is going to last. How long is he going to be doing the 7-on-7 thing? What is the line of demarcation for the team really needing him out there? Because I think we all could probably logically look at the Dolphins and be like, when is this really going to bother the Dolphins? Like, when is this really a thing? And people will look at joint practices typically and say that is around the time when you're like, all right, you kind of want to get some real work in here. Even sometimes that's looked upon as more valuable than the games. But it's not super necessary, right? But I do wonder, does this go anywhere? Because as I said in my last video about this, I really thought that if Tua wanted to get something done, it was going to have to be something more extreme, even, to the realm of he's even doing less than, I guess, Jordan Love, who is at Packers practice, but just not participating in Packers practice. Although their word is, I was watching NFL Live today with Schefter, that they think that it will eventually get done, that they are trudging along and getting this thing close. And then even more reports come out today that say it's not even imminent. Armando Salguero, longtime Miami Dolphins columnist, he reported today that, quote, not imminent unless something changes. A source texted of the talks. He had said in his story that the Dolphins have made multiple offers on an extension. The Tua side has not agreed to those and have made at least 2 proposals of its own. So we have multiple offers going back and forth. Nobody seems really close to anything. And I don't know. I mean, if the word is it's not imminent, when do we eventually get to the cutoff time? I don't know. I don't know what that answer is. I guess next step is, because I don't know how many more people can hammer Mike McDaniel over the head with it, other than because they I think attacked it from every angle today. I think that he could be asked every day, is Tua going to do it more? And this will be almost the what was the player that they had to ask about every day that they were they were trying to figure out? I think it was Byron Jones. He's like, any update on Byron Jones? And nothing changed. Now, obviously, Tua can physically play. It's not apples for apples, but it feels like that's going to become the thing. It's like, is today the day that Tua fully practices? Where are we at? Mind you, they're not in pads yet either for a few days. So that also takes a little bit of the sting off of this. Like, what are you really rushing? They're in gym clothes, and it is what it is right now. It is at this point where I think everybody who saw the situation and knew that camp was coming down the barrel and that all these reports were coming out that nothing was close, here we are. Okay, it still doesn't seem like it's very close. So Tua played a card that he has that, shows that he's upset. And I'm sure whenever he addresses the situation, maybe he can go a little bit even stronger than he did in minicamp. But part of me almost thinks he's going to go even less in the paint if he does speak to reporters about it, which I don't know when or if he will. He is participating, so I suppose he does have to. Eventually. He's not injured, so I would think that he has to say something about it. Wilkins did address it, and then, kind of moved on from it for the rest of camp. So the difference with Tua is typically the quarterback speaks like once a week. So when is that point? And then what does Tua do with that microphone to state his case? Does anything get moved along? Because I got to tell you, I thought that the last time that he spoke about it in minicamp it was as strong that you could state your case as you could. And I think the only other dominoes really to know from Tua's standpoint are why didn't he hold out? Why did he choose not to hold out? And I think that could probably make him look, more even positive light than he already is. But I don't necessarily know if that gets anything done. I think that once he shows up and does this half-assed holdout, which is almost really what they should call it more so than a hold-in. A hold-in is a stupid name. But a half-ass holdout is not a holdout. And I don't think you've pressured the Dolphins into doing anything. I think the Dolphins have taken advantage of a nice guy. And so nothing's going to get done. So you almost wonder at this point, damage is done. Why even do anything? Do you really feel like it's going to help? Now, I say this as somebody who's very ignorant on the talks. I don't know what side things are at. Maybe Tua feels like things are moving along in a certain direction, that talks are going in a good direction. And I almost wondered too, when does it get to does Chris Greer say anything about this ever? Or does he get to just hide away and not answer any questions basically until the trade deadline? That's the other thing is when does the Dolphins head of football operations get to step to a microphone and let everybody know where they're at? But ultimately, it's not the best case scenario for the Miami Dolphins because obviously it lingers and Tua is always the dominant storyline and it is going to hang over. But he is out there, and I don't think the Dolphins can be too pissed that it's at this worst case scenario. He is a guy who obviously knows the offense very well. He is in sync with the coach. You can't even say that he's out there really missing reps with Odell Beckham Jr. Odell is not out there in practice. Jonnu Smith, I suppose you could be missing a few more throws his way, but I'm sure they could get in on that on 7-on-7. Maybe they could throw something together with that. They could find a way to make something in that realm happen. So, it's disappointing that this is going to be a big talk about it. And I think the other thing that I find most, I won't say upsetting is the word, but just frustrating from an upcoming season perspective is you just kind of want the season. This is such a big friggin' season for the Miami Dolphins, right? And there's so much on the line with what they've put into this roster, where it's at. And, I just know it feels already like the talks of this season are almost joyless, right? Because everyone's going to go along with this season and they're going to be like, well, they got to do it in December. Somebody was asking about that today with Mike McDaniel. It's well, what can you do already in December? We're doing this again. We're doing the same thing again. We're already talking about December games, and we're already talking about end of the season games, and I get it. The Dolphins' December swoon is almost like Groundhog's Day. It lingers like the ominous eclipse that's just going to come over the season. But I just want to see this at a point where people can still enjoy the journey somewhat, because I think there were a lot of games that were fun to watch last year. Did have an enjoyment watch this team. And by the way, dude, Kevin frickin' Harlan calling 2 out of the first 3 games. You got him on opening week against the Jacksonville Jaguars, which is obviously going to be a sexy matchup, with the whole Trevor Lawrence thing, because that's last year it was Tua versus Herbert was a lot of storylines. They're always going to be linked. Now Trevor and Tua really shouldn't be linked because they're not the same draft class, but now inevitably they are because Trevor's got the deal in hand and Tua does not. So that if we do go the entire training camp without him getting paid, then obviously it becomes a thing that everybody wants to get into, and will be something that harkens over. But they don't got Harlan. They don't got that Harlan magic on the other side like the Dolphins do. There's just something about it. There's just something about that Harlan heat that just gets you going, dude. Really, really does. So here we are. Dolphins training camp underway. Tua doing his half-ass holdout, but I wanted it, if he was going to do it all the way. He did not. So now this thing feels like it's just going to kind of linger over the next few weeks until we get to actual football.